Welcome back to Beyond the Veil. Have you ever had that really distinct, maybe a slightly unsettling feeling?
Mm,
It's when you realize you've done everything you could in the last chapter of your life,
mm.
but the future is it's a complete blank page.
Yeah.
You're not really moving forward, but you're not looking back either. You're just kind of suspended.
It's that quiet, almost unique stillness that settles in when one chapter closes, but the next one hasn't shown itself yet.
Exactly.
And it's not heavy, with finality. And it's certainly not celebratory yet. It's just a profound pause.
And that profound pause is exactly what we're exploring today. We are pulling entirely from a really insightful analysis by Master Spiritwalker.
In his article, Standing Between What Was and What's Becoming.
That's the one.
Yeah.
He offers a framework, really, for navigating this exact moment, a moment that I think most of us are taught to fear.
Right. And so our mission today really is to give you a kind of roadmap for this experience. We want you to see this in-between place, not as failure or stagnation, but as a critical spiritual threshold.
A threshold. I like that.
Yeah, one that's necessary for processing and for true integration. It helps you establish genuine clarity before you can possibly move forward.
And if you want a deeper and more advanced and accurate take on spirituality, well, this podcast is definitely for you. Okay, so let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So Master Spiritwalker opens with this beautiful, almost tactile metaphor. He says it's like standing in a doorway.
Okay.
You're not fully inside the room of the past, and you're not fully outside in the future. You just have one hand resting quietly on the frame.
It's a moment of perfect suspension.
Yes, and what's so fascinating is that this suspension, this quiet, is the very thing we fight against the hardest.
Exactly. For the learner, and that's the person who really values action and progress, this stillness translates instantly into a judgment.
A bad one, like I'm failing.
Precisely. The teaching is often that if you are uncertain or motionless, you're lost. But Spiritwalker directly challenges that. He calls this place a threshold, not an error.
But how do we distinguish that threshold from, say, just plain old fear or procrastination? Because I think a lot of us have stood in that doorway a bit too long because we were just scared to take the next step.
And that's a great question. That's where his analysis really shifts from, philosophy to mechanics. Spiritwalker makes this crucial distinction between stagnation and reorganization.
Okay.
Stagnation is holding on to the past because it's comfortable, right? But reorganization is when the old framework just doesn't fit anymore, but the new one isn't built yet.
So the old motivations loosen.
They do. You might find yourself just suddenly disinterested in routines that used to drive you. Old identities feel ill-fitting, like you're wearing someone else's clothes.
So the lack of definition we feel isn't from a lack of effort. It's actually a sign that the fundamental structure of who we were is dissolving.
You've got it. To use his analogy, think about consciousness like a body.
Okay.
The body has to pause between the exhale and the inhale.
Well, yeah.
That tiny fraction of silence. It's not wasted time.
It's necessary.
It's the necessary moment of pressure equalization. The system prepares for the next breath. This pause is the integration. If you rush the inhale, you get a shallow, frantic breath.
And if you rush the next chapter of your life, it'll be just as unstable.
That's it.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So what exactly is integrating then, and why does the past let go so quietly without some big dramatic ending?
Well, Spiritwalker spends a lot of time on what he calls the subtle grief. This is the quiet mourning that happens even when your life, your job, relationships, all that, it all looks the same on the outside.
So if it's not a dramatic event, what are we actually mourning?
We are mourning a version of ourselves that's no longer sustainable, or maybe the future we thought we were supposed to have. Maybe you defined yourself by your productivity. Now that feels hollow. The grief is for that driven, maybe overworked version of you that you're quietly letting go of.
That shift must create incredible friction inside. I mean, I imagine the mind is just screaming to go back to being busy, to go back to action.
It is. But Spiritwalker points out the beauty and the detachment that comes from this. It shows up as three things that you just stop doing.
Okay, what are they?
You stop forcing outcomes, you stop chasing external validation, and you stop pretending the old way is still working. He doesn't call this loss, he calls it honesty.
Honesty, not loss. That's a really powerful reframe.
It is.
But if you stop all that forcing and chasing, you're just left in the great unknown. And the mind really struggles with that, doesn't it?
That's the core of the work right there. What's becoming often lacks language entirely. It's just a sensation, an intuition, a subtle pull.
Not a business plan.
No, definitely not. It's a feeling of rightness. The mind demands a blueprint, certainty. But the soul, he argues, operates on a totally different logic. It only reveals the next essential step after the current one is fully released.
I think that clarifies why trying to rush this creates so much anxiety, or why trying to bypass this stage just leads to, well, disconnection.
Absolutely. You end up launching something from an old, unintegrated foundation, and Spiritwalker sees standing in this quiet without forcing it as the ultimate act of trust.
Trusting that something is happening, even if you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So if the mind is struggling with all this uncertainty, it makes sense that you might need some tools to help translate that subtle pull into something you can understand.
Yes, and before we dive into his specific practices for presence, it's a good moment to talk about some of the support systems out there.
For those of us feeling this suspension.
Exactly. For those wrestling with naming what's next, the Starseed Psychics Marketplace provides resources built specifically for this kind of journey. It's part of a larger company, Nomadic Enterprises, which was founded by two nomadic souls.
And the marketplace itself is really a sanctuary, right, for supporting light workers, empaths, anyone who's awakening.
It is. The idea is to find some external light when your internal path feels temporarily quiet. They offer a really comprehensive suite of services.
Things like tarot readings, archangel readings.
Psychic healing services, chakra services for alignment, and even in-depth spiritual home and online study courses.
And the goal is to make it accessible, which I think is so important. Nomadic Enterprises make sure there are multiple payment options.
Right. So major credit cards, PayPal with their pay later and pay in 4 options, and even flexible plans through Partially.
So you can get the guidance you need without adding financial stress to an already stressful time.
The focus is always on providing the tools you need to flourish as your authentic self, which is really a process of stripping away what isn't you during this threshold moment.
Okay, so let's bring it back to Master Spiritwalker's insight on this stillness.
Yes. He emphasizes that thresholds are ancient teachers. They appear in every major tradition, mythological journeys, rites of passage, religious awakenings. They are essential moments of recalibration.
Recalibration. That word suggests it's more than just waiting. It sounds active, like an adjustment to a new reality, even if that reality is, well, invisible for now.
It feels chaotic to the ego, but it's necessary for the soul. He details the specific feelings of being on that threshold. First, the old rules just dissolve.
Meaning?
You might suddenly realize that the professional or social boundaries you once held sacred just feel arbitrary now, pointless. Second, the new rules haven't formed yet.
Which explains the sensitivity then. If the rules, the whole scaffolding of our behavior are gone, we're totally exposed.
Exactly. Because that scaffolding is gone, your awareness sharpens. Your sensitivity increases exponentially. It's why emotions feel so close to the surface.
And small distractions feel deafening.
And why solitude suddenly feels mandatory, not like a luxury. The threshold is stripping away all the noise so you can hear what's genuinely real inside you.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Spiritwalker talks about the deep-seated fear that comes up in this space. This sense of being behind, of missing the moment. We're afraid this quiet time is just wasting our life.
And he offers this beautiful, necessary reassurance. He says, you are not late. Becoming doesn't follow human calendars or quarterly goals. You're not stalled. You are exactly where your awareness needs to deepen right before your direction appears.
It's a gestation period. You can't rush that.
You can't.
But wait, what about when everyone else seems to be running ahead, launching things, achieving? How do we hold on to that idea that we're not late? Does he mention a consequence for rushing?
He does. He says the consequence of skipping this threshold work is that you often circle back to it later, usually under more painful circumstances, to do this exact integration anyway. You might launch a career based on an old fear, only to find you hate it 5 years later and have to rebuild from scratch. Those who stand still now are doing the foundational work. You are building structural integrity.
So if we are doing this necessary foundation work, what does that look like day to day? I mean, how do you stand here gently?
Spiritwalker is really clear about what is not needed. You don't need grand resolutions or 5-year plans. What you need, above everything else, is just conscious presence.
Presence in the stillness.
Yes. And he defines that presence through 3 introspective practices.
Okay, let's break those down.
The first one is, notice what no longer asks for your energy. Look for the obligations that just sort of dropped off. The ones you forgot to pick back up and you didn't miss them.
Like not feeling obligated to go to certain social things anymore?
Or you stopped checking work email compulsively on the weekend. The energy for it has just dissolved.
That's a great indicator of where that honesty is taking root.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the second?
Second, notice what feels quietly alive without any effort. This is that subtle pull we mentioned.
Right.
It won't be a detailed plan. Maybe it's an urge to read a book on a subject you never considered, or a curiosity about a place or a skill. It's the new direction speaking in its soft pre-language phase.
A little spark. And the third practice is very physical.
Yes. Notice where your body softens when you stop trying to decide. When you just mentally drop the battle to define the future, where does the tension in your shoulders or your stomach release? That physical release is often the signal of trust and alignment. The key through all three is just radical patience with what hasn't named itself yet.
It all comes back to Spiritwalker's closing truth then. The threshold isn't a waiting room. It's a passage.
A living, necessary passage.
Nothing is wrong because nothing is finished yet.
And he says when that next step finally does appear, because the foundation is sound, it won't feel forced or dramatic. It will feel simple, obvious, almost familiar.
Like remembering how to walk after you've been standing still?
Exactly like that.
So what does this all mean for you right now? If awareness sharpens at the threshold, maybe challenge yourself to consider one specific old role or identity that's recently softened. That thing you just stopped doing without meaning to. And more importantly, try to identify one sensation. Not a plan, but a feeling of warmth or curiosity or peace that is quietly alive in that new empty space. Just lean into that.
We really encourage you to stand gently in your threshold and just trust the invisible process of integration.
And if you want to explore this topic more and read from Master Spiritwalker, or perhaps look into the insightful writings of author Gypsy Wind, that's Cheyenne James. Links to purchase books by him and her will be in the description.
Wonderful.
Until next time, keep exploring beyond the veil.